Hi, I'm Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Rakedall. Thank you very much for joining us on our fifth in a series of innovations, where we are talking about ways to transform our public schools in the state of Washington so that they're very future facing. All of these center around student success. We've learned a ton from where we've been for decades, and certainly through the pandemic. This marks an opportunity for us to have a very public dialogue with big innovative ideas that will always require partnerships between schools and communities, between our organization and partner organizations, and always a critical role for the governor and the legislature. Today, we're talking about equitable access to dual credit. So these are courses students take while they are in high school that earn them both high school credit and college credit. And they present an opportunity that is just remarkable for our state, that builds upon 30 years of national leadership when it comes to dual credit. I'm very honored today to be joined by three incredible leaders. You're going to get to hear from them a little bit later on. Scott Friedman is the Associate Director for the Association of Washington School Principals. He supports high school principals around the state and has a very powerful lens on dual credit, how it plays out locally, and some of the things that his principals tell him would enhance the opportunity for students and communities. Also, Elise Garza. Elise is a student representative at Othello. She's a student representative on the Othello School Board. She's a 12th grade student, a running start student, and we'll get a really good perspective on Elise's experience at Columbia Basin College and her local school district, Othello. Also joining us and speaking a little later today is Sam Carver. Sam's a member of the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. Sam's a running start student, also a 12th grader. Sam is juggling Issaquah, his home school district, as well as Bellevue College in terms of his dual credit opportunity. And I think from these three perspectives later, you'll hear what it is like to administer and what can enhance it and what would really improve the student experience. So thank you, Scott, Elise, Sam. Stay tuned. We'll get to you here pretty soon. I want to go through a little background with folks today. I want to shape some of the problem statement that's caused us to put this as one of our big innovations, go through a little bit of data to describe that problem set, offer the solution, and then turn it over to these awesome leaders of ours. So let's start with background. You've heard a bit about this dual credit. High school students taking courses, they're advancing in their learning to the point that they can earn college credit. We have these in traditional academic settings that many people are familiar with. We also have these in our professional technical programs. So this isn't just for the student, headed to a traditional university. Dual credit is there for students who want to work in apprenticeships, who want to go straight to work. This is really for everyone who wants a post-secondary credential. And as many folks know in this state, we have a stated goal between higher education and K-12, the public sector and private sector, to get at least 70% of our working adult population to a post-secondary credential of some kind. It can be baccalaureate degrees, it can be apprenticeships, it can be certifications. This is really at the heart of our economic success, which is why we are so passionate about it. Today, over 200,000 K-12 students participate in some form of dual credit, although it varies a lot, and we'll talk about that. Some programs have lots of students who don't accumulate very much college credit, while other programs have very few students, but they accumulate a lot of college credit. And that's part of the solution that we're seeking here is to reconcile a little bit of that. You're familiar with Running Start. Students go to a local college campus. They take college courses there. The state uses basic education dollars, reimburses the college for that, and students get college and high school credit. Advanced placement, it's a test-based program. Students stay in their home high schools almost always. They take coursework. Ultimately, they take an exam, and based on how they do in that exam, they may or may not get college credit. That comes with a fee to take those assessments. College and the high school, our colleges work with our K-12 school districts. They essentially make sure that the curriculum offered and the teacher offering it is qualified. Students stay in their home high school. They take college level courses right there in their home high school. Then they earn college credit upon successful completion. There's CT dual credit. Again, we've talked a little bit about this. Think about this as ways for students to really get industry recognized credentials, as simple as first aid, CPR, all the way up to forklift operator, or graduating as a certified welder or a sheet metal worker or something in that space. So CT dual credit has a vast array of opportunity. Again, high volumes of students not taking a lot of credit in most cases. International Baccalaureate and Cambridge International, these are two if you will, internationally recognized programs. They're almost all very, very inclusive. They're in the home high schools. And typically in these, it isn't a one-off sort of ad hoc, take a course, don't take a course. You're generally in the whole program or you're not in the program. Very, very few programs around the state, but rigorous and successful. We know the success of dual credit. It is becoming so powerful in the United States as the cost of attending higher ed goes higher. And I want to be clear about this point. Our state and our state institutions of higher ed have done an incredible job keeping tuition costs affordable in the state of Washington. We want all of our students to consider post-secondary, whether that's military, college, or what have you. The challenge is increasingly housing. So as our students face the reality of attending a residential college program, more and more of them are saying, can I get lots of college credit if I'm advancing while I'm in high school to shrink my time to a college degree later on? That is one of the big benefits of the program when we are doing it well. Obviously, it increases high school graduation rates. These are students who are very serious about their learning, and we want to support them. It increases college going rates and college retention. So even taking 1 or 2 college level courses while you're in high school increases the probability that our students will go to college and stay in college all the way through a degree. The benefits are enormous for families. They're even bigger for our legislature, who saves a lot of money when they pay for all of this work while students are in high school. We obviously want them to step up and pay a little bit more, because there are reasons for families to save tens of thousands of dollars if we get more students involved and get them more credit when they are in high school. There are longstanding barriers, though, and I want to get into a little bit of the data here. We've been looking at this question really for the better part of 30 years, since the early 1990s. Running Start became a very national model where students left their home high school, went to the area college. We are blessed to have 34 community and technical colleges, so lots of geographic opportunity. But by the very nature of that geographic reality of leaving your high school campus, this program consistently serves students quite well who have resources, and families, students, parents, caregivers who struggle financially are much less likely to have students who participate. This particular slide is all of our programs combined, so you can see that through the years, we've hardly budged on the disproportionality of serving low-income students, low-income families. We can do something about this. A little bit later, I want to show you by program that this can be really differentiated. This is all of them combined, but some programs have much bigger gaps than others as well. We also look at this, of course, by race and ethnicity. The state has done an outstanding job closing disparities and equity gaps of opportunity, particularly for students of color where they have an offering in their home high school. We start to see those gaps grow again if they have to leave their home high school, because it implicates transportation costs, lots of movement back and forth between the college and the high school. Students lose time, maybe they even lose momentum, because that whole period has to be used up just in transportation. So again, we'll get into just a little bit more of that later on here. There are clearly some gaps, and you'll note very specifically our Native American youth are very underserved in dual credit programs. Here, really powerful idea. Each of the percentages that you see here really reflects the percentage of our high school students participating in these programs. You can see CT dual credit, nearly 39% of our students participate. Again, the correlation I want everyone to see is the more likely the program is housed in a high school where we minimize transportation, we minimize fees, we minimize costs, we get the best equity outcomes and the most participation. By the time you kind of go around the wheel to Running Start, we have less than 10% of our students engaged in that. It is a great opportunity. Those students tend to be nearly full-time now. Those are almost always 80 to 100% of their time spent on the college campus. And many of them are leaving us now with associate degrees by the time they graduate from high school. The challenge, of course, is it is a different location, and we see some of our biggest racial gaps in Running Start. Again, by program, you can consistently see 10 to 15% gaps. Advanced placement, college and the high school, all of them, you see CT dual credit has the most equitable participation. But as I said, it isn't particularly articulated well in the post-secondary world. Students aren't leaving with a lot of credit and clear pathways. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that CTE programs are getting the kind of supports that traditional academic programs like Running Start and college and the high school are receiving today. Again, one more look at this, those same programs by race and ethnicity. You can see gaps consistent. You can see disproportionality in it. This is where we have said in our organization through federal accountability that we will in fact be a state that measures our school districts based on their ability to offer and have students successful in dual credit. It is essentially 5% of the weight of our accountability system. So we've created an expectation that our school districts are looking for more opportunities to close gaps and serve more students. That's what brings us to this opportunity here to say, what can the state do to help? What can the legislature do to make a significant transformation in the program to give everyone more equitable opportunity? So here is basically the program. We start by requesting $100 million from the legislature. This is over a biennium, about $50 million per year. These opportunities, these investments that we want the legislature to make will address college and high school fees. Today, the students are paying nearly $70 out of pocket. That's $350 a class. So you can imagine if a student was trying to be a full-time college and high school student, that's a $3,000 cost out of pocket. And obviously it suppresses demand for this program and reduces opportunity, because this is one of those great programs that's happening in our high school classrooms. Our proposal is to get scale out of this. If the legislature will fund the costs that families and students are currently paying and reduce that a little bit, the legislature will save a little bit. And we think we can scale this with more demand and more volumes of students. Our higher education institutions will have fuller college and the high school classrooms that they approve. And ultimately, we think they'll generate more resources. We know this is tough. We are proposing that volume here can make up for a reduced fee in order for the legislature to save a little money if they pick up the cost of this tab. Workforce development CT programs, part of our challenge is making sure we work with industry. We're asking for some resources to make sure that we articulate these certificates and industry credentials so that what we teach students on these high school programs actually is what industry needs. Of course, there are material costs. We have young students who are ready to be certified automotive techs the day they finish their 10th grade year. They say, where's my program my junior, senior year? The cost of tools for those students, the cost of equipment and the cost of the apparel they need can sometimes be hundreds or thousands of dollars. And again, if we're a state serious about multiple pathways, we got to start picking up the cost of this. In the case of Running Start, we're asking legislature to invest in all of the instructional fees. If you're a high school student advancing, there is no reason that as soon as you advance to college level work, we start charging families and students so much money that it becomes a discouragement for them. So we know that students might choose this option, and there might be parking fees and other things that they choose to do. That's still going to be on families, generally speaking, on students. But when it's instructional costs, when it's something related to their learning, their basic ed learning, and they're getting high school credit for it, whether that's books or fees in a lab, those should all be picked up by the state as part of basic education. And finally, exam-based dual credit, we talked about it, AP tests, other tests. The student's ready to go. They've taken the coursework, but it's an exam they have to take in order to earn the college credit. There should not be a barrier for that. And we see it all the time. Two students sitting in the same classroom, taking the same courses, learning the same material, mastering it at a grade level expectation that our teachers have established. One can afford to pay the AP test fee and get the college credit. One cannot. That is a total injustice, and we can solve that. We know there are further policy considerations. We have been very clear with partners we've talked to, both individual higher ed institutions and legislators, and what legislators say to us consistently is, we can do some of this, maybe not all in the first year, but we can scale this. But we want absolute guarantees that this credit transfers. There is no reason for the state to pay for all of this and to invest in these young people, only to find out that a course didn't move with the student as they then graduated from high school and chose their college or university or their apprenticeship program. The second thing we hear consistently is the legislature wants to know that this accelerates students through their pathway. If you end up with 45 college credits, say a year's worth of credit, and the state pays a few $1,000s additional for that, they expect that there's a year less time spent at a college or university in order to shrink that time to degree. That's where families really save money. If you think about it, $1,000 or $2,000, and let's say Running Start, to save book fees and other things that allow students access, particularly low income students. that couple $1,000s can save that student up to $25,000 or $30,000 in housing and tuition and fees by avoiding a year's worth of college later on. We keep hearing from legislators, if they're going to go this route, they have a high expectation that it actually shrinks time to degree. So we all, as institutions, K-12 and higher ed, have to double down on our data to demonstrate that evidence. And finally, we hear policymakers pretty consistently say, we don't want to pay for these fees only to have other ones pop up later on. So they're looking for some kind of certainty that when they create a basic education obligation about this, that's it. That's what the state pays for. It results in credit. That credit is transferable. It shrinks time to degree, and there's nothing that's going to be added on later. We know we owe this to policymakers in education to ensure this. And we're looking forward to working with any partner who can get to that kind of arrangement, whether it's a single institution providing these programs for the whole state or the more than 40 institutions we have today who are participating. We expect that we'll do that work. It is appropriate, we think, at this time to encourage a third party to be a part of that overall evaluation of the program as it exists today and as it is considered in the future. That can be the Joint Legislative Audit Review Committee, the State Auditor's Office, the Washington State Public Policy, the Institute for Public Policy, maybe others. It is timely for a third party to look at this 30-year history of dual credit and say, this is how it has helped students. Here's where you can get better. Here's where you can shore up the program. If we build that kind of confidence, families will want the programs more. The legislature will invest in it in the way that we have anticipated here. And, excuse me, and ultimately what we know is more students will go to post-secondary, more of them will complete. It helps our economy. It absolutely helps lower our social safety net costs in this state. This is about families and students. It is about economic development, and it is about our state being competitive in the future. I am going to turn to these awesome speakers that I mentioned earlier. We are going to start with Scott Friedman with the Association of Washington School Principals. Scott, tell us about your interest and passion for this work.
Well, thank you very much, Superintendent Reichdahl, and we certainly commend your bold initiative in this effort and applaud the work that not only you have done, but the team at OSPI has done in putting together this awesome dual credit request to our legislators and to the legislature this coming session. As working with AWSP and directly with our high school programs across our state, I hear and see the voice of many school leaders. And it gives me a unique view into the day-to-day operations that really uplift access or diminish access, uplift opportunity or limit opportunity, and also barriers that get in the way of having equitable access to programs. And I know that we all aspire to support access, opportunity, and equity as those tenets should drive every decision that we make. And I think today, with this announcement in terms of the budget request, we are looking at and taking the necessary step to elevate access, increase opportunity for kids and students, and removing one of the largest barriers to achieving equity in our dual credit programs, that being financial. School leaders in high schools across our state, as you know, they work tirelessly to create hope-filled systems that uplift students to see what is possible, to get them to see what is possible, and to instill the necessary confidence in them to believe that they are capable of post-secondary success. Our school leaders firmly believe, and I've heard this from many of them across our state, is that access to opportunity should be a right and not a privilege. Opportunities for dual credit vary in our state based upon zip code, and that shouldn't be the case. It should be equitable regardless of where you live and where your home is. Students want to be challenged. Contrary to what some people think, they do. They want to be challenged, and that schools should be able to offer choice and flexibility for kids to meet their needs, to meet what they aspire to in regards to their high school and beyond plans and what they have in terms of their lifetime calling. We need to reduce costs for students around dual credit options and bring consistency to programs across our state in terms of support. And we also know as school leaders that a variety of dual credit options is important for students, as each of those programs has different strengths that will meet students' needs. School leaders also know that the cost of credit is a barrier. Location limits access. Lack of academic supports can sometimes lead to not successful experiences. and that some state rules govern access that lead and continue to ingrain some of the inequities. For example, the 20-mile rule. Many high poverty high schools are within 20 miles of a community college. And based solely upon their location, these schools are unable to apply for tuition subsidies for students. This has a major impact on our most disadvantaged students, who are a subgroup of students that we are trying to increase opportunities and access and college completion rates by offering them the ability to gain confidence that they believe they can achieve at the post-secondary level based on the college and the high school coursework that they take. As you spoke to earlier, Superintendent Reichdahl, we know that 65% of our US jobs are going to require a higher education degree or credential at this time. And that right now, Washington ranks 15th of 50 states with 43.5% of the residents holding a post-secondary degree. The rate of job creation in our state is double the national rate at this time. And our state anticipates over 373,000 new jobs over the next 5 years. It's critically important that we support and allow opportunities and options for our Washington scholars to fill those positions. As we look at access to those dual credit opportunities, school leaders have continually let me know and make me aware of that college and the high school is one of the most equitable things that we can do for kids. And the expansion of that is critically important in building their confidence that they'll be able to succeed in the next area. It's also the best way with which we can increase access among all of our demographic groups. We know that we need massive supports in order to have students reach that post-secondary attainment and succeed positively in their college and high school courses and other dual credit courses. And the other thing that's extremely important as we navigate this landscape and push for this dual credit budget request via the legislature is that it allows us a greater degree of major touch points for kids to increase the completion of FAFSA and also those students that are able to sign up for the College Bound Scholarship. Those are two big areas which we see are limiters for kids in terms of the 3 A's, access, admission, and aid to post-secondary institutions. Again, we cannot thank you and your team enough for listening to messages across our entire state that dual credit is one way with which we can build confidence of kids in our system and how we can increase access, opportunity, and provide equitable outcomes and access for kids in all of our high schools.
Thank you, Scott. I'll take away hope-filled systems as a powerful entry point to your remarks. Scott gets to be a part of a really powerful association that's got school leaders from all over the state, both elementary, middle, and high school. This is really focused on high school today, but we do want to thank AWSP for their leadership in all things professional development and learning of our building level administrators. It's also a good reminder that we have 14,000 teachers in our high school system alone with a master's degree or higher. So we represent an enormous opportunity, as he said, in college and the high school to get a lot more students access to college level coursework while they are in their high school and reduce those transportation costs, reduce those other barriers. We are a state poised to absolutely lead the nation once again if we can go to the next step, which is more college access, particularly in the high school classrooms in which our students are already sitting. Thank you again, Scott. We turn next to Elise Garza. You heard me say Elise is a 12th grader from Othello, also attending a dual credit program at Columbia Basin College. Elise, take it away.
Hi, everyone. As Superintendent Reichdahl mentioned, I'm Elise Garza, a senior at Othello High School and student board representative to the Othello School Board of Directors. Additionally, I attend Columbia Basin College through the Running Start program. I believe that eliminating and lowering student fees for any college and the high school opportunities and advanced placement exam fees would create remarkable possibilities for Washington students. I'm from a rural school district with about 1,250 students at our only high school. Of these students, 589 juniors and seniors participate in some form of college opportunity while they finish their high school credits. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those students. I attend Columbia Basin College full-time while finishing one credit at Othello High School. Because of this, I'll graduate not only with my high school diploma, but also with an associate's degree, putting me 2 years ahead of a lot of my peers. This has been extremely beneficial to me for many reasons. One benefit has been because I finished high school level courses by the middle of my freshman year, I needed more rigorous courses, which Running Start has provided. An additional benefit is the fact that Running Start is taking 2 years off of my time spent in college. This will be extremely helpful as I intend to obtain a doctorate of psychology, which will take many years. Being able to receive dual credit has helped me tremendously with accomplishing high school goals and getting me that much closer to my long-term goals. Enough about myself. Let me explain what an incredible opportunity eliminating student fees would be. I pay roughly $300 to $400 for Running Start fees, including books, labs, materials, etc. This doesn't include gas money, which we all know is a hefty fee these days. I participate in online classes to eliminate this fee, but I have peers who spend upwards of $100 a month to get to and from their classes. The point I'm trying to make here is that eliminating even parts of these fees would make programs like Running Start or even college in the high school, where textbooks and lab fees still are required, much more accessible to low-income families. I believe that chances like these to earn credit towards college before even graduating high school should be equally available to every Washington State high school student who wishes to participate in such programs. If these fees were waived, I can confirm that there would be many more students in these programs. At the end of my sophomore year, my class was introduced to all of the college credit programs our high school offers. Of those students, roughly only 30 of the approximate 300 students in my class were able to participate. I took it upon myself to find out why, because I have many bright peers who would benefit greatly from programs like Running Start. When I asked them why they weren't participating, the most common answer was that their family could not afford it. I believe if the state chooses to eliminate fees for any college credit high school program, it will be significantly beneficial to all of their students.
Elise, thank you very much. Awesome personal testimony. Congratulations on how hard you have worked and your persistence here. It's really powerful to leave high school with an associate's degree, and someone seeking a PhD, you will need those 2 years shaved off. So thank you so much for being a part of this. We turn now to Sam Carver. You heard me say earlier, Sam's a 12th grade student, Issaquah School District. Sam, be clear about your high school. We'd love to know if it's Issaquah High School or another one, and you are attending a dual credit program at Bellevue College. Take it away, Sam.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Carver. I go to Issaquah High School, and I also go to Bellevue College as a second-year Running Start student. I use Sam, they pronouns as well. Like I said, I'm a second-year Running Start member, and if I can take myself all the way back to my first year at Running Start, I remember clicking all of the boxes, looking at all the forms, and not quite understanding what level of monetary contribution I was being expected to contribute. It said that unless I exceeded a certain number of credit hours, I wouldn't have to pay. Or if I was below the required 100 level classes, I wouldn't have to pay. And I thought that that was that. And I was able to hopefully get an associate's degree and shave off 2 years of my college for free. And at the end of the day, once I figured out all of the forms and I was done with the process, it came out to be about almost $300 for my very first quarter. And at my school, you're only allowed to do 3 quarters. So that comes out to around $600 per year for me. So having a job and working, I'm a coach. So having a job and working as a coach, doing high school and also doing college, that's a lot of my time and energy and money that I could be spending on my next 4 years at college that I'm instead spending here and now. And that doesn't include the textbook fees that come after. If your teacher decides that you need your textbook, that doesn't include gas because I do drive myself. And that also doesn't include parking, which is around $200, give or take, at the end of the year. So once I realized that I would have to be contributing all of these things, it really became a burden to me. And I pushed through and I saved up the money and everything is okay now at the moment. But I'm sitting here wishing that I could have spent that money on my next years in college, considering that I hope to go across the country where college isn't as affordable. And even with programs that cut down time, such as Running Start and such as a 3+3 program, I still want to get my Juris Doctorate and go to law school. So I am expected to spend the next 9 years in college. And like a lot of people have said, it's not the most affordable thing to do in this world today. And that's the case for a lot of my peers. I've had friends that we sit down at the library together and we tried to enroll, and then we made it through the enrollment process together, and they've had to unenroll once they see the bill that they're going to have to foot. And when you get the chance as a junior to enroll for your senior year, if you didn't already do it, they realize after I've informed them that they do have to pay, that it's not affordable for them. And that's devastating, because for some families, that is the only way that they can afford college, or that they can afford a post-secondary education. And certainly for me, that's the only way I can comfortably do it. I can be comfortable sitting in how much debt, considering it's the next 9 years of my life. So making Running Start and other dual credit opportunities accessible to everyone instead of locked behind a paywall would absolutely allow so many more Washington youth to access these opportunities and feel comfortable with their future and strive to achieve bigger and better things. So at the end of the day, having these financial barriers demolished by the work that OSPI and all these other organizations are doing would be absolutely incredible for Washington youth and the state of Washington and the strength of our youth and our future. So I just want to say thank you.
Sam, that's really powerful. So thank you very much also for serving on the Legislative Youth Advisory Committee. We have student advisory groups across lots of sectors of education, and it's your voice that helped elevate some of this work for us, and we can't thank you enough. Good luck. We have a future PhD and a future lawyer in our call today. So employers, if you're out there, you might need 7 to 9 years, unfortunately, but they're going to be ready. And Sam, please get back to this coast when you're done. We want you in Washington State. I never stop recruiting our talent, and consider being a teacher. So here we are, 30 years after the start of Running Start, a very successful program. You've heard from 2 students who have been very successful in those programs, but it took money. It took hundreds of dollars a quarter for students thinking about this for 2 years, their junior, senior year. This can be thousands of dollars. I do want to really thank and compliment our community and technical college system. They have seen these barriers for a long time, and they have really tried hard to think about waiver programs and sharing books and lots of other forms of aid. It's not a coherent system yet, though. So what we are indicating here to our policymakers in the state is please help higher education out. Rather than financial aid models where the sticker price discourages students, or they get through an application process and at the end they're told their costs, and rather than students waiting and finding out there may be aid if they go to this office or check this office, or if they share this textbook, or if they get a bus pass, rather than going through those hurdles, which have consistently proved to be institutional barriers for low-income students and some students of color, let's just make this part of basic ed. If you're a high school student who's accelerating, you ought not be charged money to go to school. There are lots of talk around the country around universal college. We've heard proposals at the national level. We've had other people talk about it. The best way to do that isn't billions of dollars spent on the back end of the education process. It's to take the $10,000 we spend every year on our high school juniors and seniors who are ready for college work and get them that credit while we're already paying for that high school seat time. That's what Sam, that's what Elise are asking for. That's what Scott and others are asking for. These students are saying, I'm putting in the work, I'm advanced in my work, you're paying for my educators anyways. Can we speed up my credits? Can you make sure they transfer to my next institution? Can you guarantee that it shrinks my time to a college degree or beyond? This is our moment, Washington State. This is what we can do. And we can take it to our career and tech ed programs. We should have thousands of students becoming welders, electricians, sheet metal workers, plumbers, vet techs, home health care aides, you name it. They should be in these programs and graduating with industry credentials, so they aren't told, finish your high school diploma, then you can start a program once it costs you $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. If we're going to be the #1 state in the United States of American education, and I believe we are making that progress, we will have to lead the country on dual credit. It cannot be a function of who can afford it or what zip code you're in, or how much money your family has made. It has got to be a guarantee from the state of Washington. Thanks for being a part of this. We might have some media questions here that we want to answer, and I really appreciate you being a part of this. This is number 5 in an awesome series of innovations. More is coming. Katie, do we have questions?
We do. Venice Buhan from Crosscut is our first question. Venice, you should be unmuted.
Okay, hi, thanks for taking my question. I was wondering, what information do you have at OSPI that the main barrier is financial, and not something else like, readiness or, or something of that sort. I was wondering also if you have a notion of what the ceiling or like how many people want to participate and are facing a barrier right now.
Yeah, thank you, Venice. So a couple things. We certainly know from survey work done both in the private sector side and through some survey work we do that virtually all of our students have a post-secondary ambition. So there is no question in the state that they've gotten the message for the last decade that is the key to their success. Not all of them want to go to university or even a college, but at least some sort of professional technical program or apprenticeship. So the ambition is there. We then compare that to who's actually participating. We see consistent 15 to 20% gaps. When we look at students who are low income and we check, for example, their academic success, we continue to see gaps. So there is no doubt that preparation is a part of this. And we've talked a lot with folks for years around some of this starts in kindergarten, right? If you're not sort of on that math track early enough, then you can run into challenges. Unfortunately, what we see here is even tens of thousands of students who are in that Algebra 2 track are good to go after their sophomore year, aren't participating, to the point that something like a third of all of our students on our culminating assessment, our 10th grade assessment, Smarter Balance, to get the highest scores, those 3s and 4s, a third of those students aren't on a college campus a year after graduation. And those are students who got a 3 and a 4 in their 10th grade year. They were ready for college that junior, senior year. And based on what we can see from income data and race data, unfortunately, we are leaving students behind because of cost. It isn't the only solution. There is preparation, there's guidance, there's all of the additional work, but cost is the biggest barrier. And as far as a legislator goes, they need to be thinking about this in terms of, if I spend $1,000 now to get a student an AA while I'm already paying for their high school experience, don't I as a legislator say $8, $10, $12, $15, $20,000 on a higher ed enrollment later on for that student? And the answer is yes, if that credit is efficient and we ensure that.
Venice has a follow-up question.
Okay, yeah, thanks for taking my follow-up question. I was also wondering about, does this, would this proposal affect the funding or the emphasis on other high school programs, or, does it affect higher ed, like financially affect higher ed in some way? Or is this like a brand new, budget request or like funding request?
Yeah, thank you. So it's an additional policy level request. So we've already got some, you heard Scott Friedman talk a little bit about subsidies that we provide a very handful of students from a program that started a few years ago. This essentially says, let's take the cost away from all students when it's instructional costs or test fees. So it's definitely a new request of the legislature to go beyond what they've been historically doing. I will say that the participation rates in this will go up as we can make this promise, but part of it depends on whether it's a diverse set of offerings. You heard folks talk about the barriers to Running Start. There are also barriers to college in the high school. At currently almost $70 a credit, it's a $350 out-of-pocket cost for most students or families to take one college level course if it's a college and the high school course. So all of this price has to come down, which implicates the second part of your question. And this is the hard news I've been trying to deliver for 5 years in my role. If we are putting the state of Washington first, its students, its families, its taxpayers, and minimizing the defense of our institutions, whether that's a high school or OSPI or a college or a university, then our entire public policy objective ought to be, how do we get in rooms and think about shrinking the time to degree for students by loading them up with college level coursework or industry credentials while they are in high school and we are already paying for that seat time. If we're serious about that, and I mean this very genuinely, and we're efficient at it, it will mean that less time is spent after high school paying rent, paying tuition, paying fees, paying for textbooks. So on the back end of this is a more efficient system for the taxpayers, but very potentially a smaller footprint in terms of how much we spend in traditional post-secondary settings. If we're putting students and families first, that's our job. And I will only point out to you that starting 30 years ago in Running Start, really smart policymakers said, we want basic ed dollars to leave K-12, go to the community and technical colleges as a way to enhance college participation for students. And as a result, that is up to nearly $250 million a year that isn't in K-12, but is more appropriately at the community colleges. And it's beginning to compete on an equal footing of all the tuition that they collect. We would have something like 3,000 more staff members in K-12 if we had said, no, that money is ours and students need to stay with us and then they can go to college after they're 18. That's not the right answer for students. So this movement of money to make sure it's most effective for results might end up changing the footprint and the size of our higher ed system or even our K-12 system or our apprenticeship system, but we've got to do it. You are seeing the consequences in our society today of an enormous swath of people who never get that access point, and we're all paying the price for that.
We don't have any further questions, so if you want to take us out.
Great. Again, thanks everybody for being a part of this. We didn't promise easy answers. We promised that we would bring the hardest questions to these innovations. What are institutions going to have to do to transform? What kind of reform do we need in our investments? Where can we shrink current spending that's less effective to move it to more effective places? You've heard innovations really cover quite a powerful span, but I challenge you to think about the passion of the work of serving students. If they came to school and the day they showed up, they were going to be a bilingual learner, and they showed up in a space that was well equipped and well funded and safe. And when they got there, they didn't worry about the calories that they were going to get. And in the process of advancing their coursework, a bunch of their college was paid for to save them money later on. You would change the way young people think about school. They'd say, that's the place I want to be. I want to go and explore all of my passion, and I'm respected whether I want to be a sheet metal worker or an aerospace worker building the plane or the one engineering the plane. That's the system we're designing in Washington State. And we've got a great jump start thanks to legislative investments, thanks to an outstanding higher education system. But now we have to shake the tree one more time. K-12 has to act differently. Higher ed has to act differently. The apprenticeship programs have to be more accommodating of young people. And our legislature has to think about investments early in order to save resources later on and empower families. That's the innovation that we're looking for. I'm excited. Stay tuned for number 6 coming in